Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well out there. Certainly better than I was last night after the Hurricanes loss. But the Miami Heat, they finished off their preseason with a loss. There was some news afterwards after I did my video recap yesterday. The Miami Heat informed Precious Achiuwa that he is being waived. So they are not keeping Precious Achiuwa on the roster. Which I guess is surprising and it's not. It almost feels like they had Precious Achiuwa there, almost as like an insurance policy if somebody really got hurt during the preseason. I did mention last night, I was like, man, we didn't get a whole lot of Vlad Golden this preseason. I felt like in a lot of meaningful minutes, so I was kind of curious if they were going to even keep him on the two-way deal, but FAU Michigan Zone is going to stick around on the roster. It appears, according to Anthony Chang and other reports, that the Miami Heat are going to give Jameer Young one of their two-way deals, which is interesting. The Miami Heat, very, very guard loaded. Now, I would agree, of the guys who looked the best in the preseason, you kind of just should go with the talent that you think can help you. The Miami Heat not really able to find any sharpshooting in this preseason. Nobody who's just like a specialist. No real wings. Like I think if you looked at somebody like Steve Settle, intriguing player, but I don't know if the Heat are sure whether or not he is going to contribute in any way, shape, or form. And that's what those two-way deals are for. It's like, hey, who could get called up in a pinch? We know that the Heat, while they have a lot of guards, they got a lot of guards with some baggage. They got Yakachonis, who's dealing with a groin injury, Tyler dealing with an ankle injury, Terry Rozier dealing with all things Terry Rozier. And, so you basically got Davion Mitchell, Pella Larson for sure. So, maybe it makes some sense there. But Jameer Young looked good at times, so it appears he's going to get that. As far as Precious not getting the deal, yeah, like I think the Heat certainly. I thought that he had some games where he showed energy and rebounding, things that Precious Achiuwa did. And maybe, this was one of those things, non-guaranteed deal. Maybe he heard that there was a team that could use him a little bit more. Or maybe there's a situation where later on in the year they bring him back. But I thought it was an interesting one to explore, certainly for the entire summer. And now that we're getting to the end of it, I do think that Kalel has shown trustworthy to go get a bunch of rebounds and to play with Bam, to play without Bam, and then you get Nico back. Like that's going to be the beef that they got there to go and make these things happen. So that was your answer there. The other piece of news yesterday that went everywhere was regarding Tyler Herro's extension, which his window officially closes, I believe, on Monday. And it appears it's just already been put there in the ether. It was first reported yesterday by ESPN's Brian Windhorst, and then another report comes out from the Miami Herald that the Miami Heat are not going to extend Tyler Herro in this particular 3-week window that they had. The first report that came out is that Tyler Herro, this is from ESPN, Tyler Herro is coming off an all-star season, and there's definitely interest in extending with the Heat, but there haven't been substantive talks to his point, and the deal is doubtful, sources says. In a vacuum, Herro is a player that the Heat probably should be most interested in extending, as Herro saw former all-star Bam Adebayo get a large extension last year, but it doesn't appear to be in the offing. As for the other two candidates, recently acquired Norman Powell and Wiggins, long-term deals are unlikely. Powell was traded to the Heat. We know that he was trying to get his own extension, and we know that Wiggins is a player option. So it's yeah, I don't think either of those guys. I don't know. Maybe Wiggins. I mean, maybe Powell. As like the season goes on, could the Heat offer him something, especially if they feel like they don't want to invest all the money into Tyler Herro, and that's going to be their guy going forward for at least in the short term? Perhaps. I mean, maybe there's another part of this piece that goes into, well, why are the Heat giving Nico an extension and they're trying to keep their cap clear for 2027? 2027 has the free agency class of Jokic, Antetokounmpo, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Davis, who, I don't know how much you want to risk that. Curry, Cat, Kawhi, Trae Young, Zach LaVine, James Harden, Kyrie Irving. Like, it's a pretty beefy class. But here's the thing. It's become pretty rare that there's a free agent class to really gun for. Now, you can still keep your cap clean and have some room for sign-in trades and other flexibilities there. It's not like, just signing somebody into cap space has become like the chic thing to do. We did see this with Paul George and the Sixers. That did happen. But I also just think, like, remember the Heat were trying to do that for 2026 too. That was their plan. I wouldn't really read a lot into that. I think really what the Heat are portraying right now is a team that doesn't really know their next move, but they're trying to be flexible in whatever move appears to them, right? Very clearly, we're going into this big pivot point of the franchise, and they need to decide who their guys are, or are you going to become, the Chicago Bulls with nice weather? And I don't think that the Heat want to do that. That's not typically the standard of their organization. And that's why they don't want to lock themselves down. When you sign a Nikola Jovic to a $15 million a year deal, and, in today's NBA, that's just not a crazy thing. You're keeping your a guy who you think could fill a lot of spots. And, obviously you need him to stay healthy, but it's not like this huge detrimental deal. Same thing with the Davion Mitchell deal. It's like, oh, you sign him, he's going to be a starter or your sixth man, $12 million a year. That's not crazy. But when you got to decide whether or not you're going to pay somebody $40-50 million, obviously that's a big decision, especially when you have all the money that you do committed to Bam Adebayo. So the other report that came out after this was from Anthony Chang, and this was on this was in the Miami Herald, and he says the waiting game for an extension from the Miami Heat appears to likely extend into the next offseason for guard Tyler Herro. League sources told the Miami Herald it's unlikely that Herro and the Heat will reach an agreement by Monday's deadline. After Herro turning one of his best seasons last year, according to a source, the Heat and Herro's representation had discussions, but the Heat did not make a firm offer. Herro had said that to, I think, Anthony and Ira, that when the window was going to open, he had believed that they were going to meet. We know that he was able to sign a 3-year, $149 million extension. I will say the interesting thing that came out of the conversations and the quotes that he gave to Ira and Anthony on the on the eve of training camp was that, oh, I was looking for a 50-year bust. Look, here's the thing. That wasn't a crazy conclusion. I mean, he said that they could either do it or it could be more expensive. Now, it could be more expensive by years. It could be more expensive by the idea that he makes all NBA this year, which is, going to be tough, especially with the injury that he's already facing, that he'll be eligible for that. But you're also in the situation where, like, look, he's got this year and he's got next year. He has 2 years guaranteed left. There's not really a rush for the Miami Heat to do it other than you do this because you don't want your player to make a stink. And I don't necessarily know if Tyler Herro has the cachet, especially with all the injuries that he's had, even being as good a player as he is. I just don't know if he's not in a Jimmy Butler place. Hey, I took you to 2 finals. Hey, I'm Jimmy Butler. I'm the most relevant player on your team nationally. Hey, you've already catered a lot of things to me. It's a little different. Now, Tyler is your own guy. They already have extended him once. They obviously like Tyler Herro. We know Pat Riley loves Tyler Herro, but there is a question of, like, hey, because of the durability, because of the postseason shortcomings, is this a guy that you can invest certainly max money into? I think that's a lot. But even if you're getting into the 40 range, which I could understand why Tyler Herro thinks he deserves that money. The money in the NBA is crazy. If Tyler Herro looks at a Brandon Ingram and sees that he's making $40 million a year, at the very least, I would think that I deserve that. Of course, I get it. I'm not here to hate on anybody who thinks that they deserve a lot of money, but I do think that it's an important discussion for franchises to have because you got to be sure about the guys that you lock up. And so that is the big question going into this with Miami, is not only about locking up Tyler Herro, whether he deserves the money or not, but is a Bam Adebayo Tyler Herro duo good enough to contend with everything else that you put around it? And they got some proven to do when it comes to that. And, as to Windhorst's point of like, oh, well, he sees that Bam Adebayo gets the extension. Yeah, well, first off, timing is everything. And second of all, Bam Adebayo has been a key cog into two teams that have gone to the NBA Finals and has stayed healthy and durable. One other Eastern Conference Final, I know Bam did get hurt right before did get hurt in the finals, but he was as good as Jimmy in the first finals run as far as that Celtics series was concerned. He was a monster. And so I just think that for Tyler, he was a kid back then. He was 19 years old. And look, there was questions about the Heat. Were they going to make Bam wait that first extension out? And then they didn't. They wanted to do right by their guy. So Bam has hit the timing wheel. If Bam was up for an extension this year, would the Heat even be hesitant to do it? Maybe. I mean, I think that that's a possibility if you are dealing with all that stuff. But with his age, with his physical prowess, with the fact that he's one of the best defenders on the planet, is he as good a scorer as Tyler Herro? No, Tyler Herro's an incredible scorer, but nobody's attacking Bam Adebayo in a series and trying to game plan about getting Bam Adebayo on coverage on somebody because they're going to go after him. Like, that's just not the case. So it's I'm not surprised. The biggest thing out of all of this is the durability, right? Even if Tyler Herro was healthy, I was skeptical that they were going to do an extension in the early window. I think that Pat Riley kind of showed that hand last year when he was like, he's cool. We've had a discussion. He's, and Tyler even made light about not losing his joy. Even if he was healthy, I think there were going to be questions about how many of these guys on the roster they're going to invest in. And if Bam was even in that case, there could have been questions. Are we going to invest? But they already decided that. And remember, Bam signed a shorter term extension. He was more in this ilk of like a 3-year, not one that was like extended all the way out or trying to make Defensive Player of the Year, which would have been a super uber deal and all that type of stuff. So the fact that Tyler Herro comes in to this year injured on top of maybe some already hesitations about why you would give him certainly a max extension, but any type of extension with where your team is at when out of anything, probably the biggest criticism about Tyler Herro investing in him is durability. And you can't afford a guy getting that much money and you can't really count on him physically. Now, hopefully, whatever happened with this foot impingement, this extra bone scenario, and they've gotten to the bottom of this because this has been something that's apparently been bothering him. Hopefully this puts a lot of stuff behind him and he can go out and he can ball out and he can have an incredible year. But I do think, like, look, the Heat are going to have to decide at some point, even for Tyler's sake, like, hey, am I a piece of your future, or should I go find somewhere else that thinks I'm a piece of the future? They do have to come to that answer as well. And I think the one thing, to be fair to Tyler, is the last 2 years have kind of sucked because even he's like 1-1A with Jimmy Butler. Well, Jimmy got hurt in the year where they got bounced by the Celtics. So we'll never really know, like, what was that going to be with Tyler improving and Tyler handling all the trade rumors well. And, even the next year coming in with a much more mature, clear demeanor, not having the darkness of trade rumors lingering over you. He came in last year light and easy, and there you could just see like he came in with a different demeanor about things. I think he's done he's talked about the growth that he wants to have as a leader, and so that's all great. But last year also sucked because I think he thought, oh, I'm going to have this year next to Jimmy, and we're going to see what we're going to do. And then Jimmy takes a Molotov cocktail to his Heat career and decides, no thanks, I'm out of here, dude. So that was not really a reasonable roster to think that they could go win with. So then you're hoping this year, okay, we're giving you a real dynamic scoring backcourt mate in Norm Powell, Kalel, Nico, guys that he really believes in. Wiggins more comfortable. Bam looking to bounce back. Like, all right, get a fair shake of what this is, and then decide on what's the proper amount of money to invest in Tyler Herro. And I think that's a lot of what this year is going to be, discovering who are the guys that he can put their arms around and say, these are our guys that we have going forward, and these are the parts of the roster where we greatly need to improve if we're going to go anywhere. So no surprise that the Miami Heat and Tyler Herro did not come to an extension. I do hope that Tyler is going to handle this okay. I think that he is, because he has handled most stuff in his career in great stride. And we could figure this, he can figure this out. He can figure this out once they get a better idea of what the capabilities of this team are. And look, I think you saw the one thing I would say in shades of the preseason is they need a scoring. They do. I think that they need a scoring, they need a shooting for sure, and you want to see what a backcourt with him and Norm can do with Bam with either big and then Wiggins thrown in there. So very intrigued to see that, and where this goes from all here with his long-term future with the Miami Heat. But the news of the weekend that they didn't come to an extension and that they're not going to come to an extension by Monday, not too surprising. I kind of had the feeling that was where it was going to go. Even if he was healthy, I think the Heat were at the pivot point where they were going to decide that. Unless Tyler was going to take some crazy discount, like 30 a year, 35 a year, something like that. Which, look, even if I was Tyler Herro's agent, I don't think I'd agree with that. I'd be like, no, I could definitely get more. I could definitely get you more money than that. If not from here, from somewhere, for a guy of his scoring talent. There's just got to be that meet between about what the deal is for what he wants and what the Heat are comfortable with for his long-term future. And they're just not there yet. There's too many unanswered questions about the team's long-term future and his health and where they want to go from here. And then the real question is after this, like, look, if they're not going to invest in him long-term and they feel like they've come to that conclusion, let's say the year goes bad. Let's say the Heat stink up the joint. Let's say they look like they have in the preseason. Well, then I think the Heat do have to decide on, like, all right, are we going to live in a future without Bam or Tyler Herro? And certainly Tyler, since they're not committed to him long-term, that also has to be part of the equation as well. Or let's say that he get off to a great start without Tyler Herro, if that's a possibility, and they feel good about Norm. And it's like, hey, Norm, would you sign for 30 a year for the next 3 years, 2 years, and you're our go-to scorer? Those questions have to be answered too. All of that stuff is up in the air right now in deciding what you're going to do for the long-term health of your organization. There's a lot of questions to be answered. I've described this season as, they're going into this thing with a lot of different forks in the road that they could go down, and they need to get answers on.